Welcome everyone to this Sky High Symposium, Series 13. So, every Wednesday we have the Sky High Symposium, and it's our endeavor to serve the best to our women fraternity of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So, I wish we have begun this CA year, 1st July, with lots of love and affection, and with the hope we rise to the sky, and sky is no limit. This is 75th year of our independence, Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav. And with this, I once again welcome all of you to our 13th series of Sky High Symposium. And today we have with us our beloved Central Council member, CV Chitale, from Pune, Western region. And the speakers for the session is CA Preeti Tharod, who shall be sharing her knowledge and experience on direct tax provisions in relation to the trust. We have with us CA Shweta Padelia, who will be sharing her knowledge in relation to SOPs. And we have very senior members who are coordinating for the session. CA Varsha Deshpande, who is the past chairperson of Goa branch. CA Madhuri Dhanak, who is a convener of Mahavir Nagar CA Study Circle. And CA Kavita Dholu, who is the joint convener of Ghatkopar CP Study Circle. And I can say about Chitle sir at present, he is heading Direct Tax Committee, Peer Review Board, and at present, today, in the morning only, daily basis, morning, I receive some of the other message from Chitle sir. And I say today, he has given me the guidance and requested to give any by end of day today, if anything required, because lot of lot of members are telling that income tax site is not working. So today we are direct tax committee under the able leadership and guidance of Chitle sir is heading towards representation to the CBDT, and that CBDT, as well as the people who are actually managing this site of direct tax, about reasons for non-filing of the forms. So Chitle sir, I am on the job and will be sharing with you our representation. Again, sir has also taken up to revise the tax audit guidance note, initiative of revising the tax audit guidance note. And for that, a lot of outreach meeting is going to happen under his able leadership. So I had invited Chitle sir long back, but he has said if there is, whenever there is a topic in relation to direct tax, I will come. So thank you very much, Chitle sir, for accepting our invitation and joining over here to share your words of wisdom. And my dear speakers, I welcome you, and my dear coordinators, and all beautiful, intelligent women participants. Once again, from ICAI, happy CA year, and welcoming all of you on this occasion of Series 13 Sky High Symposium. With these opening remarks, I request Chitle sir to please share his words of wisdom.
Well, thank you, Preeti. Women's wing of ICAI is working with wisdom, and it is topped on Wednesdays when we have this program, sharing knowledge with women, which is equally applicable to men, I believe. And that is the reason maybe my interaction is solicited. As far as since Preeti has talked to start with about this particular initiative of Direct Taxation Committee, I will talk of that also. So at the outset, let me welcome the speakers, Preeti and Shweta, and the coordinators, Varsha Madam, Madhuri and Kavita. I think all of you are going to make this evening very wonderful. As far as Direct Taxation Committee is concerned, it is taking initiative in the arena of representation, education. So for right since the day go for new IT, it never went leave aside going, it has remained standstill, and a number of agonies, number of man hours have been lost. We have been relentlessly representing. Even we have appraised finance minister of the glitches, and finance minister has also taken it very seriously with the developers. However, unfortunately, we are not seeing the seamless functioning, and that is the cause of our concern. So not only we are going to represent orally, we have told on earlier occasions also, but we are going to write, and also we are seeking appointment of CBDT chairman, because he has recently assumed office in last week of June. So maybe with his help, we have offered assistance on behalf of ICAI, that for the purpose of stakeholder interest, we shall also extend our helping hand and ensure that whatever glitches are there, whatever problems are there, they are amicably resolved, so that hereafter there is no waste of unnecessary time and also mental agony. With this, today there are very important topics. One is about taxation of trust. I believe that it means taxation of charitable institutions, and SOP. I think the banner says that it is relating to development of business, but now, as Preeti has stated, it is SOP. So maybe that Preeti, whether SOP relating to what?
Speaker can share what is the exact topic.
Sir, actually SOP regarding manufacturing industries mein how you can further up your business with the help of SOPs
Okay,
for
so
these
furthering business
unorganized
is the
sectors.
fine, fine. So underlying thing is increasing business,
Yes.
and then SOPs would assist increasing business. That would be
Yes.
the theme.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So as far as and that is true that as far as charitable institution is concerned, we have to think of taxation. But in order to motivate people to do charity, they should earn more in business. So we also have to know how first enable them to earn more, and then move to the charity. After having moved to the charity, we have to understand how to keep charitable institutions beyond the tax net. And indeed, income tax law has made detailed provisions for the purpose of ensuring that charitable institutions which are doing job, which is more important to the government, because they are supplementing the governmental function of doing public good. So they should not be exposed to tax. But then, if there is any concession which is given by the government, it needs to be ensured that the concession is given for a particular cause, and whether that cause has been furthered by that particular institution or not. And therefore, certain stringent provisions are there for the purpose of charitable institutions. Of course, although we say stringent, they do not come in any way in furtherance of the objective of the cause of charity. So if you spend for the purpose of charity, there will not be any hassles. But if you, instead of spending, you keep money balance, then there are certain issues. So the charitable trusts are very tightly regulated under the law. And what we have witnessed, that in case of professionals who are rendering consultancy and other services to charitable institutions, also are charitable in the matter of charging of fees. And then what happens, human mind being as it is, at times adequate attention is not provided for the purpose of rendering of services, and then some or the other mistakes keep on happening. Let me tell you that I was sitting on disciplinary bench for last 3 years, and we have witnessed that even in case of charitable trust, there is quarrel between the two groups in the trustees, or those who are managing the charitable institutions. There are egos, and then instead of filing suit against one another, they find easy scapegoat in the form of auditor, and they file negligence complaint against the auditors, thereby try to settle score with the other group. So this is indeed an unfortunate development, but human mind being as it is, it happens. Although not in the arena of charitable institutions, let me tell you, in case of cooperative societies, and particularly housing cooperative societies, this phenomena is witnessed. So in case of one cooperative society where there were 50 apartments, and for one apartment which was let out, in place of say normal charges of 500 rupees per month for maintenance, they were charging him say 800 rupees per month. And then this person was unhappy with the management, so he filed suit against the auditor, saying that as per cooperative law in Maharashtra, you cannot charge more than 10%. So you can maximum charge 550, but not 800. And on this particular aspect, even for one person, the auditor was held guilty. There are number of other examples in case of charitable institutions also, where the people have fought very aggressively against the chartered accountants. Chartered accountants, because maybe focusing or neglecting because the fee is not very attractive, they have unfortunately been gullible and signed the balance sheets which contain certain errors. Either the provisions of this charitable trust law were not adhered to, or certain other provisions, like in case of one charitable institution where the temple belonged to a particular institution. Since the other managing committee took over, they straight away showed this particular temple in the balance sheet of the newly constituted trust, without being any even if it is a work, whether you are doing audit or whether you are providing consultancy or maybe tax advice, one has to be very careful. One has to read the law very carefully and then only take a call. Whatever action or suggestion we are making is within the four corners of law. So this particular session, wherein discussion will be made by the faculty on taxation of this charitable institution or charitable trust, I am sure that you will get niceties of all these provisions, and it will certainly help all of us in complying with those provisions without much difficulty. Of course, when I asked Preeti, as far as this faculty is concerned, whether the faculty is selected because of her name or wisdom, and Preeti immediately answered that she is very intelligent and she has the vast knowledge as far as these charitable institutions. Incidentally, her name is Preeti, but main qualification is information about the charitable institution and its taxation. That merited her selection, and I'm sure that Preeti will justify her selection by sharing the knowledge with us as far as the taxation of charitable institutions is concerned. As I stated initially, that a person becomes charitable once he has adequate money at his disposal. So, in order to have adequate funds, I think one will have to first increase the bottom line and in an appropriate manner. So, there are two sides for the bottom line. One is top line and one is the expenditure. As far as the topic is concerned, which Shweta is going to discuss, is how to step up this particular bottom line or the profits of any organization. And there she is going to underline the importance of SOPs. I recollect that in case of management technique of developed by Japanese people, even there are marks on your table where you will keep stapler, where you will keep punch machine which was used then, or maybe where you will keep mouse, where you will keep pens, where you will keep other things, so that if at all you want to access that particular thing, you are not required to waste 1 or 2 or 5 seconds even looking here and there. Okay, this is the place where the stapler is placed. This is the place where mouse of your laptop is placed or computer is placed. So there are various techniques developed from various ends. SOP is one such area where we need to really understand what is SOP, how it can be developed, how it will be useful for the business, so that maybe in a longer run, we would be able to render service to the businesses for developing this SOP. Although she is talking in terms of mainly manufacturing sector, we chartered accountants are in service sector, but it is not that those SOPs would be applicable only for manufacturing sector. I think once when we understand what she discusses about manufacturing sector, we will be able to adapt these particular principles even for our service sector and for the other clients who may not be in manufacturing, maybe in other occupations. I think to that end also, it would be useful. If you feel that, okay, you are finding some difficulties, I'm sure you can contact Preeti. Here is Preeti Savla, so that she will once again invite Shweta and she will enlighten maybe on other aspects of the SOPs, maybe relating to services, maybe relating to trading or other activities. So I think both the sessions are going to be very useful from practical perspective, and also they will be throwing light on the subjects which we are going to hereafter understand. So thank you, Preeti, for inviting me. And Shweta and Preeti, I look forward for guidance
Thank
and
you.
from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chitle sir, for being here, sparing time and contributing and motivating all of us for this series of Sky High Symposium. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And now let us start with our technical sessions. And the first session will be taken up by Preeti Tharoor. And I request Varsha madam to please introduce today's first speaker, CA Preeti Tharoor. Over to Varsha, madam, please.
Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure to introduce today's faculty, CA Preeti Tharoor, who will speak on trust-specific provisions under IT Act 1961. Preeti Tharoor is a fellow member of ICAI and a partner in KBP Associates Chartered Accountants firm. She has been into practice for over 20 years and has experience in the field of taxation, audit, and accounting. She has worked extensively for not-for-profit organizations to obtain registrations and other approvals from the Commissioner of Income Tax exemptions, and also has a wide exposure in taxation of trust as well as in GST. I present before you CA Preeti Tharoor. Over to Preeti.
Preeti ma'am, you're not audible, please. Preeti ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yes, what?
Yeah, I'm audible now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Hello, friends.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. I would like to thank the Women Members Empowerment Committee for giving me this opportunity to speak on today's very burning topic, that is trust-specific provisions under the Income Tax Act. Friends, if you see the latest collection from charitable organizations is 7 lakh crores. 7 lakh crores of income is claiming exemption under the Income Tax Act. And so that shows how important or how they form a part of such a major role in the total tax collections and total exemptions that this trust or charitable institutions are forming part of. Let me just start with this background. So charitable purpose, all trusts and institutions to be able to take a registration as a charitable trust under section 12. It has to comply with the definition. It's not that any charitable purpose is allowed to be taken registration. So what is charitable purpose? Section 215 of the Income Tax Act defines charitable to be only relief of the poor, education, yoga, medical relief, preservation of environment, preservation of monuments, and advancement of any other object of general public utility. So only if your objects falls under any one or more of these criteria are you eligible to be taking registration under section 12 of the Income Tax Act. So friends, law has been amended with effect from assessment year 15-16, specifically for the last limb, that was advancement of any object of general public utility. So earlier, if any trust or institution was engaged in any form of business, in any trade, commerce or business, or any service in relation to such trade, commerce or business, it was not allowed to take the benefit or the exemption under section 11 and 12, and the registration was immediately denied. Later on, from budget 2015, that is from AY 16-17, they introduced the first proviso to section 215, in which business activity was allowed to be taken as one of the activities, but subject to certain conditions. The conditions, the first condition was when it says that such activity has to be undertaken in the course of actual carrying out of such advancement. Now, what do you mean by actual carrying out? It has to be along with or for the purpose of attaining your charitable objects. So if one of your objects is distribution of textbooks, and in that case, the institution is into the business of printing the textbooks and then later on distributing it either for free or for a certain minimum cost, that such an activity, even though it's in the nature of a trade, business, commerce, still it would be eligible for being registered as a charitable organization. And the second limit that was should the total earlier was there is that the total value of receipts from such activities did not be crossing 25 lakhs in the previous year. So friends, this limit of 25 lakhs was there up to 2015. From AY 16-17, now this 25 lakhs has been changed to 20% of your aggregate receipts. So when the reason why they changed this was when 25 lakhs was the limit without any cap on your charitable activities, the 25, there were some institutions which used to keep the total collection below 25 lakhs, but then that collection was only from a single activity, that would be from the sale of books. And there was no charitable activity other than sale of books that was being carried out. So to curb on such activities or to bring restrictions on such institutions, they have now instead of giving a lump sum deduction, they have restricted it to a certain percentage, that is 20% of your total income from any activity. I've given an example over here. So for example, if you are net sales from such books, if a net sale from such books is 20 and your other receipts is 79, so aggregate receipts is 99, so 20% your total percentage from net sales from the sale of books is 20, that is more than 20%, and hence it will not be eligible in such a case to claim the deduction. Certain issues that are still unresolved, that does this apply only to advancement of any other object of general public utility, and whether the business, what if the business is having any profit motive, or is surplus necessary, or has the business to be conducted at a cost. So on this, there have been various judgments which have said that profit motive is not necessary, even if an institution is earning any profit from such an activity, still it will not lose the exemption of being a charitable organization, subject to the condition, of course, that the earnings from such profit are again utilized for the purpose of charity. What do you mean by actual carrying of advancement? That has also been defined by many judgments, in which it is saying actual means it has to be real activity or a genuine activity and not any fictional or any made up activity. The activity should have been genuinely being carried out for such advancement, and it has to be in the course of such an activity. So the reason why this amendment was brought, wherein 20% was the cap rather than 25 lakhs limit, was the intent was to give relief to the genuine charitable institutions, which otherwise caused undue hardship to the institutions under the garb of charity. For example, institutions that were running for yoga and they were charging some fees for some monthly fees that were being charged for carrying out, maybe for payment to the yoga teacher or any, as I said, I've given you the example of books. So all this, because of all this, there was huge collection that was happening in institutions. Sometimes it was 100% collection that was happening because of all this activity. But now with this 20% cap, if in case my total collection from charitable activity, if my total collection from such business activity is 20, I have to see that my total collection from other than business activity or other than activity of such trade commerce has to be
There is some network issues.
Hello?
Yes, now you are audible, ma'am.
Sorry, I just got
Yes.
logged out. I got logged out. One moment.
Yeah.
So this is a chart of the entire section 11 and section 12, in which all the provisions regarding how the income of a charitable trust has to be treated. I've prepared my presentation chronologically as section wise. So we first start with section 11. Section 11 says subject to the provisions of section 60 to 63. So over here, friends, the entire Income Tax Act that is there, except for section 60 to 63, that's the only section that would override these section 11 and section 11. Otherwise, the entire gamut of trust is getting covered under section 11 and 12 and 13. The subject to the provisions of section 60 to 63, that is the clubbing provisions. Subsection 1A says that any income which is derived from property that is held under trust wholly for charitable purpose. So in case if any trust is formed and having partly the part of the activities is charitable and other part is non-charitable, section 11 and 12 does not allow such trust. So section 11(1)(a) talks only of trusts which are wholly formed for charitable or religious purposes. In that case, 85% of the income earned from such activities need to be applied. So 15%, so if I'm earning 10,000 from any donation that I've got, I am allowed to not to spend 15% of it in that year, but at least 85%, that is 8,500 needs to be spent by that trust in that particular year. That is what section 1A is about. 1B is where there were certain trusts earlier before the formation of the Income Tax Act, wherein those trusts were having partially charitable and partially they were having other than charitable activities. So 1B is governing such type of trust, but no new trusts that are being registered under the current Income Tax Act 1961 are allowed to be registered as a partly charitable or religious purpose. Subsection 1C talks about where any trust is formed to promote any international welfare outside India, provided that India has to be interested in that and the board, by way of a general or specific order, has given the permission for the trust to carry out such an activity. Subsection 1D talks about corpus donations. So corpus, there are two types of donations in case of a trust. So one is voluntary contributions, that is non-corpus donations, and the other one is corpus donations. Corpus donations in which the donor gives a specific direction that this donation has to form part of the corpus. In that case, the section 11(1)(d) says that such corpus need not be forming part of your total income, but as per the new amendment brought about by Finance Act 2021, such a corpus donation has to be deposited in one of the forms that is allowed under section 11(5). I'll take you to that slide later where the specific different forms in which investments are allowed under 11(5) is mentioned. But currently, earlier to this amendment, the corpus donations were being invested in without having any regulation. But after from AY 22-23 onwards, now such a corpus donation has to be regulated and need to be invested in one of the forms that is mentioned under section 11(5). Second condition is that such an investment has to be maintained specifically for a corpus. So in that case, a trust doesn't have to mix up corpus donations or donations that are received that is being accumulated or set aside. For example, if a trust is creating a fixed deposit in a bank, in such a case, that fixed deposit has to be it has to be earmarked that this is for the corpus donation only, and it doesn't has to be mixed up for any accumulated income. Now, what happens if 85% of the income is not utilized by the trust in that particular year in which the donation has been received or in which the income has been earned? So only 15% of your income is allowed to be not to be utilized in that year, but balance 85% has to be utilized in that year. But there is some relief that the Income Tax Act gives, wherein section 11(1) explanation 1 says that if less than 85% of the amount has been spent for the reason that whole or any part of the income has not been received in that year. So there could be a possibility wherein someone has promised to give the donation in the end of March, but then probably the donation is not received in that year for whatever reason, or then maybe from some business activity wherein the sales has happened, but the income has not been received. The collection from such sale of books or whatever other charitable activity, it has not been received in that year. In such a case, since the income is not received, the trust cannot spend the amount for charitable purpose. In such a case, such an amount has to be set aside, and it can be applied in the year in which the income has been received. So, for example, for in March 22, I have not been able, the trust has not been able to spend some amount because the money has been received not in March 22, but in the financial year 23-24. So in that case, the trust can just file Form 9A, upload it online. It's an online form which needs to be uploaded before the filing of return of income. And in that case, in the financial year of 21-22, the trust will not be subject to any tax. Rather, in that case, when the actual income is being received in the year 22-23, in that year, it has to be applied, or in the next previous year, that is in the financial year 23-24 also, the same can be applied. The second is where for any other reason. So where 85% of the income could not be applied for any other reason other than the reason of non-receipt of the income. In such a case, the income has to be applied in the immediate next year. So continuing with the same example, if for 21-22 financial year, I have not been able to apply 85% of my income, say maybe because my trustee was not, the managing trustee was not available for approval or whatever the XYZ reason, in that case, that again Form 9A has to be filed online before the filing of return of income, and the same amount has to be spent in the next year, that is in 22-23, to be able to claim the exemption. Explanation 2 has been inserted recently to curb the tax evasion, which says that if any amount is credited or paid out of income referred to in clause A and B. So over here, this is applicable only to income that is in A and B, and not to clause C and D. So for C and D, D is for corpus donations and C is for any international activities. In such a case, there is a restriction, that is if that is being put by this explanation 2, that this amount cannot be used to give as a donation to any other trust which is also registered under section 12AA or the new section 12AB, or under section 1023C, with a direction that it shall form part of the corpus. So over here, what is to happen is two trusts which were having common trustees or within the same group, one of the trusts would give a donation trust stating that this would form a corpus donation. So the first trust which is giving the donation would claim the exemption under section 11, and at the same time, the second trust which is receiving the donation would not be liable to pay any tax on it, since it is a corpus donation and it was exempt under section 11(1)(d). So such type of tax planning was being carried out, which was brought to the notice, and then a CAG report was out in which they have mentioned this point, and therefore this explanation 2 was inserted later on so as to curb such activities and curb such tax evasion, wherein double benefit was being claimed by even by the donor trustee as well as the donee trustee. Explanation 3 was inserted by Finance Act 18, again to curb the circulation of black money. This was also introduced post the CAG report that was there. So, section 40AIA, which relates to the non-deduction disallowance in case of non-deduction of TP. 40A3, which is about payment of cash in excess of 10,000 in a particular day to a particular person, and 40A3A, which is about payment of cash in the year or in the year after or in any of the next years in which the deduction of the expense has been taken. So friends, this section 40A, 40A3 and 40A was earlier applicable only to having business income, but with from A2020, even a charitable trust has to comply with these sections. For AIA, if any expenditure has been incurred, say any repairing work has been carried out in any temple, without the deduction of TDS under section 194C. In such a case, 30% of such expenditure would be allowed, or any cash payment is done in excess of 10,000. Again, such expenditure would be disallowed from claiming exemption or in claiming or in considering it as an application of income. So earlier there were no such restrictions due to which the payments, the cash flow was very high. Payments in through via bank accounts or through account paychecks were not happening. But to curb all such and to encourage a less cash economy, these provisions were brought in. New explanation 3A inserted by Finance Act 22 with retrospective effect from AY 21-22. As per this new explanation, in where any temple, mosque, gurudwara, church, or any place that is notified under section 80G2B, any sum that is received by all such a trust or such an institution as a voluntary contribution. So earlier to this amendment, there was no option available to this trust. Any such voluntary contribution received for the purpose of repairs had to compulsorily be taken or considered as a non-corpus donation, because many times what happens is that repairs work specifically in temples would go on for 2 to 3 years, and then therefore it would not be possible to spend that entire amount in the first year itself, in the year in which the amount has been received. Yeah, in the year in which the amount was received, and therefore in that case the entire, if 85% was not being applied, the trust was liable to pay the tax on it. So explanation 3A was introduced, in which it is saying that is receiving the amount for the purpose of repairs or renovation work of any such temple, mosque, gurudwara or church, the trust at its option can treat such a donation as a corpus donation and need not pay any tax on it, subject to the certain conditions. Those conditions are that such a donation has to be applied only for the purpose for which it was made. The trust does not apply such a donation for making contributions to any other person. Such a corpus has to be maintained separately identifiable. It has not to be merged with other investments. It has to be a separate earmarked investment, and invest such funds received in any of the modes that is specified under section 11.5. In case there is any violation that is found or any of the conditions are not satisfied, such sum would become income of the trust in that year. That is explanation 3B, also introduced by Finance Act 22. Explanation 4, there was inserted by Finance Act 21, where any application is made from the corpus, it shall not be treated as an application. So, friends, in this, what used to happen that where any amount is received as a corpus donation, in that year, it would that amount was not being treated or not being rather offered to tax, but at the same time, when amount is spent from the corpus, the deduction was being claimed as an application of income. So again, over here, there was a double benefit that was happening. In the same year, you're receiving the corpus donation, not being subject to tax, and expenditure was happening that was being claimed as a deduction. So explanation 4 was inserted, in which it says that where any expenditure has been incurred from such a corpus, such amount will not be treated as an application in that year. Rather, if in whichever year I am investing that amount, or I am depositing back the amount in section 11.5. So for example, if I have opened a fixed deposit and I am breaking that fixed deposit for the purpose of utilizing the amount for some application, that amount will not be allowed as an application in that year, or rather it will be allowed as an application in the next year whenever I open a new fixed deposit equal to that amount that I have spent. Similar provisions for any loan or borrowing, any amount that has been spent from any loan or borrowing. So in case a trust has to doesn't have the has not received the donations in that particular year, but has conducted activities for which it has borrowed some money, either from any third party. In that case, that amount that has been spent will not be treated as an application. Rather, it will be treated as an application in the year in which that loan is repaid. There was a circular earlier wherein it had specified that in case of any free educational loans given, it would, in case where any loans are given, the giving of the loan was treated as an application, and whenever that loan was repaid, that repayment was taken as an income. But now with this amendment, that circular has become redundant. So now this it will be treated, the application will be treated only in the year in which the loan is repaid back. Explanation 5 that has been inserted, which says that there is no carry forward of any excess expenditure allowed in the next year. So in case in the financial year 2021, there has been any extra activity that has been conducted, and any there's been a loss in the books of the trust. Earlier, before this amendment, I could the trust could carry forward that amount and claim it against the income of the next year. But with this new explanation 5, with effect from AY 22-23, carry forward of such expenditure is now not allowed. So what about the excess applications that have been done in the previous years? That is still a question mark. No clarity has been received from the Income Tax Department whether this applies retrospectively. Also, in case there is some brought forward amounts from my financial year, say 18-19, which I want to now utilize it, which I want to now set off against the current year's income, whether that will be allowed. Such an excess application is still clarity is required from the Income Tax Department. Section 11(1)(a), which is about exemption from capital gains on transfer of capital asset. So whenever any capital asset is sold, the capital gains that are arising from such an capital asset will be not be treated as an income, provided the entire sale consideration has been utilized to purchase a new capital asset. Over here, again, there is no concept of any long-term or short-term. The only condition is that the entire situation that has been it has to be invested back into a new capital asset. In such a case, it will be treated as a application of income, and there would be no capital gains tax that would be levied. In case only part of the consideration has been utilized to purchase the new asset, in such a case, the capital gains only to the tune of the difference between the new asset purchased and the cost of the original asset would be levied to tax. So what if the income there has not been applied? If I have not been able to invest, if I have not been able to apply 85%, and at the same time, I've not been able to even use it in the next year or in the year in which the income has been received. So what will be the consequences? In such a case, it will be taxed in the year in which such a amount has not been spent, and it will be taxed at the maximum marginal rate. So friends, explanation 1 was giving me the option to spend in the immediate next year in case in any other case, and in case of non-receipt of income, it would be the amount had to be spent in the year in which the income was actually received. But section 11(2) gives the option to the trust to spend the money in the next 5 years. So for example, if 85% has not been spent in a particular year, the trust can exercise this option under section 11(2) and set aside the money to be utilized in the next 5 years. For that purpose, there were certain conditions again, and that a statement or rather a form 10 has to be furnished online. Again, this form has to be furnished before the due date of filing the return under section 139(1). In case it is not filed before that, then the opportunity to claim the exemption under section 11(2) is lost. The money that has been accumulated or set aside needs to be invested in the forms that are mentioned under section 11(5). There has to be a resolution in the meeting of trustees by which the amount is set aside. The copy of the resolution has to be kept intact to be presented before the AO whenever they have asked for it. So exemption under section 11(2) would be withdrawn in case certain conditions are not satisfied. And what are these conditions? So in case the amount is applied for purpose other than the purpose for which it is set aside. So in case the amount has been set aside for building a hospital, but it has been utilized for educational activity. So even if both the activities are charitable, still the exemption under section 11(2) will be denied. Reason being that the object for which it was set aside has not been obtained, or it has not been utilized for that particular object. If the amount ceases to remain invested in the mode specified under 11(5), or it is not utilized for the purpose for which it was set aside, or if such an amount has been donated to another trust. So even if the for example, if the amount has been set aside for using education for educational purposes, and instead of directly spending it for directly giving it to the person or to the donee, if the trust is giving to another trust which is into educational activity, and the trust is registered under section 12A, such inter-trust donation is not allowed in case of amounts that have been accumulated under section 11(2). In that case, in such a violation, it will be treated as an income in the year in which such a donation has happened, or in the year in which it has been applied for any reason other than for the purpose for which it was set aside. The 5-year period will commence from the year immediately succeeding the year in which the amount has been accumulated. So if the amount is getting accumulated in financial year 21-22, the 5-year period will start from financial year 22-23 onwards, and it will end in the financial year 28. New amendment brought about by Finance Bill 22, wherein section 11.3 says that the period of 5 years is earlier before this amendment, this amount had to be utilized in 5 plus 1 year. So there was an additional 1 year that was being given, and the amount was taxable in the hands of the trust in the 6th year. But with this new amendment, now the amount will become taxable in the 5th year itself. So in case a trust is was not able to spend in the first 5 years, but then it is spending in the 6th year, in that case, such a expenditure was allowed. But now from AY 23-24 onwards, if in case amount is not being utilized in the next 5 years, in the 5th year itself, it will be brought to tax. Section 11.3a, in case there are any modifications of objects that are specified in Form 10. So Form 10 is which has been uploaded online, but in that Form 10, the object for which the income is set aside is mentioned as, say, medical. But later on, the trustees find that maybe they want to spend it for educational purpose and not for medical purpose. So that is not allowed unless you have to take the permission of the assessing officer, and this assessing officer is satisfied that such a non-application for the purpose for which it was set aside, as for medical purpose, was due to as was beyond the control of the organization, and hence they have applied for such a modification. So then modification is possible. These are the list of the different types of investments under section 11.5 which are permissible for corpus donations, as well as amounts that have been accumulated under section 11.1a explanation 1 or under section 11.2. Section 11.6 was amended by Finance Act 2014. In which it says that depreciation will not be considered as an application. Like we do in business income, depreciation is claimed as an expenditure. But in the section 11.6, depreciation is not allowed as an expenditure against income, provided at the time of purchase, when the asset was purchased, the entire purchase consideration was considered as an application. So in this case, what is to happen? The trust is to again take double benefit. In the year in which the asset was purchased, was the entire cost, the purchase cost was taken as a deduction, and then over the years again second deduction was taken for depreciation. So this to curb all such activities, the new section 11.6 was brought in by Finance Act 14, wherein this such double deduction is now denied. So wherever an asset is purchased and that purchase has been considered as an application in the year of purchase, depreciation on such assets will not be considered as an application. The trust need not follow the depreciation rates that are given by the Income Tax Act, because section 32 is not applicable to a trust or a charitable institution. The trust can have its own rates of depreciation. Section 11.7, so where a trust has been granted registration under section 12A, none of the other provisions under section 10 will apply. So it cannot claim exemption under section 10 of that same income, as well as take exemption under section 11. Again, as per the new laws, a trust cannot be registered under section 12A as well as under section 1023C. So registration under both the sections is not allowed. The moment you take registration under one of these sections, the other section becomes redundant, or rather the registration under that section becomes redundant. Section explanation to clause 11.7. In expenditures allowed in the year in which the amount is actually being paid. So now, irrespective of the method of accounting that is being followed by the trust, be it accrual or be it cash, the expenditure is allowed only in the year in which the amount is actually paid, or the payment is made, rather the year in which the payment is made for that expenditure. So in case any repairs has been carried out and provision for payment has been made, but the payment to the contractor is happening in the next year, in such a case, the expenditure would be allowed only in the next year, not in the year in which it has been incurred. To be able to claim deduction under section 11, one of the conditions is the trust has to be registered under section 12AA, now 12AB. The trust has to make, in case there are any modifications in the objects, again within 30 days from such a modification, the trust has to inform the principal commissioner. Newly inserted section 12A1AC, which is about re-registration. So earlier the registrations were granted for 5 years. Then later on, somewhere in 2003, they started giving registration perpetually. And now again, new amendment that for those trusts that are already registered need to re-register themselves or take provisional registration for newly registered trust. I'm just brushing through fast now because we are not having much time. Just covering the new amendments. Finance Bill 22 has brought in another amendment in section 12A, wherein maintenance of books of accounts is compulsory, and if the trust is not maintaining any books of accounts, then the exemption under section 11 would be denied. Again, one new amendment was brought out with effect from AY 1819, that a return of income needs to be filed within the time allowed under section 139(1). So in case where there is any belated return, the trust will lose the exemption under section 11. But over here, only the benefit is being lost and not the registration. Audit report needs to be filed at least one month. So the same timelines that are available to tax audit report. Audit report under section 10B, in form 10B, needs to be filed by 30th September, and return filing is by 31st of October. Procedure for fresh registration, section 12AB. I'm not covering this now because of lack of time. So this is a chart wherein the entire 12AB has been covered. In case of already registered trust, 5 years registration is granted. Similarly, for trusts to provisionally registered, they has to again apply for re-registration. 5 years will be granted for the re-registration. Circular number 8 that was came out on 31st of March 22, wherein there was an extension in the time limit for making application under section 10AB. 10AB was for re-registration for trusts that were provisionally registered. For them, the time limit has now been extended up to 30th of September 22 for filing or the online uploading of the form. When originally when they were the certificates were being issued under 10 AC or 10 AD, there were many conditions that were mentioned, which is not not in line with the provisions of the Act. Some of the conditions I'll just mention was that separate books of accounts were required to be maintained for each activity. So if one activity is medical, one activity is education, one activity is relief of the poor, separate books of accounts had to be maintained for each activity, which is not practical. So that was one of the condition earlier, which has now been removed. Another condition was that no asset was allowed to be transferred without the permission of the principal commissioner. So even if a trust wanted to transfer a fixed asset of, say, a mobile phone worth 10,000 rupees, it had to go and take the permission of the principal commissioner. So such a condition has also been done out with, and there's a circular come out recently, circular number 11 on 3rd of June last month, wherein all the previous conditions have been replaced by new conditions. Again, due to technical glitches, where whoever has received the forms in which it is mentioned order for provisional registration or order for provisional approval, that needs to be read as order for registration and order for approval. Withdrawal of exemption. So if any income is applied for private religious purposes, or if any income is applied for the benefit of any particular religious community, this exemption would be withdrawn. If the funds are invested in any mode other than the ones that are mentioned in section 11.5, exemption would be withdrawn under section 13.2. 13.2, if any income is spent for the benefit of any specified person. Now, what is specified person is defined under 13.3. Specified person is the author of any trust or any person who has made any substantial contribution. Substantial contribution is contribution more than 50,000, or any where the author or the contributor is an HUF, any member of the HUF, or any trustee. So if any amount has been spent for these persons that are being mentioned in the specified as a specified person, in such a case, it will not be treated as an application, and to the extent of such an application, the exemption would be denied. These are the various places where the various modes of expenditure which is not allowed, wherever such expenditure is happening to a specified person. So if any salary is given or any rent is given, which is over the fair rent of that area, or any land or building has been sold to a specified person at a higher rate, or where any at a lower rate than a lower market rate, or any land or building has been purchased by the trust from such a specified person at a higher rate than the fair market value, so all such expenditure would be disallowed. Just brush to, we go to section 39. 39, if there's any delay in filing of form 10, so that is you will lose the exemption, but again this is applicable only to form 10 and not to form 9A. New amendment, subsection 10 and 9, that is brought about by section 22. If any expenditure which is happening from the corpus donation of, I think we've covered this, any corpus donation, any loan, yeah, this will be disallowed. Anonymous donations, section 115 BC. Anonymous donations means any donations that are received without mentioning the name and the address of the donee. Such a donation will be considered as an anonymous donation, and it will be taxed at the rate of 20%. Subject to this limit that 5% of the total donations or 1 lakh, whichever is higher, till that limit anonymous donations is allowed, but over receiving any amount over and above this limit would be taxed at the rate of 30%. So this anonymous donation is not applicable to a trust that is set out wholly for religious purposes. So places where there's a common dan peti and people just come and put in the amounts. So common dan peti at any temple or any religious place. So in that case, that would not be treated as an anonymous donation for the purpose of section 115 BBC. New section 115 BBI, special rate of tax would be 30%. That is the maximum rate of tax in case of specified income. And they have defined specified income to be any income which has been set aside, could not be spent for the purpose for which it was set aside, or it was not invested in the specified mode of investment, or it was not applied for charitable purposes, or if it was applied for the benefit of any specified person, it would be taxed at the higher rate of 30%. New proviso has come in Finance Act 22 that in case section 56 to 10 was earlier, it was exempting any amount that is received by the trust, any amount that is given by the trust, and any amount that is received by a person from a trust was not being taxed under section 56 by virtue of clauses clauses 6 and 7, which has now been amended that if such amounts is given to a specified person, it would be taxed in the hands of the specified person. Penalty 100% of the amount in case the trust uses the amount to you for the benefit, direct or indirect, of such a specified person. Then 100% would be the penalty in case of first year, and in case the violation is continuing in the second year or thereafter, it will be 200% of the amount. Section 80G, deductions that are allowed. Again, section 80G requires a re-registration provision similar to that was there in the section 12. The application was supposed to be done by 31st March to 2022. The time period is already gone for that. New form 10BD has to be uploaded by such trusts that are registered under section 80G. The timeline for that is 31st May of the next year. So this is about a new registration scheme under 80G. In case there's any delay in uploading of 10BD, to a late fee of 200 rupees per day is applicable. However, it is limited to the amount that is mentioned. It is limited to the amount of the donation. After uploading 10BD, Form 10BE has also to be issued to the donee by 31st of May. And there's a penalty under section 271K of rupees 10,000, which is limited up to 1 lakh in case of there's a violation under section 80G for non-uploading of this 10BD form. So these are some of the practical points that were there in filing of 10BD. Maximum 25,000 entries were allowed in one form, and it had to be uploaded. There was the option of there is the option available of rectifying any mistake done earlier or adding any line item which was missed out. There is no restriction on the number of times the form 10BD can be rectified or it can be revised. Only one thing needs to be kept in mind, that the revised return or the revised form should not contain the details of the rather the information of the donee that is already covered in the first form. So in case any new donee is there which has been which could not be reported either due to the information was not available, device form can be uploaded. In that case, only the details of that particular donee need to be mentioned and not all the donees. 115 TD is talking about dissolution. Interest payable for non-payment of tax. So in case 115 TD, there is any distribution of assets or any distribution of assets on dissolution by a trust to another trust, which is not registered under section 12AB. In that case, it will be treated as an income. the income of that year in which it is dissolved would be taxable. Even accreted income. Now, accreted income is the total assets, the fair market value of the total assets less the total liabilities. The Income Tax Act has given set out the way in which the fair market value has to be calculated. In this total liability, any corpus funds, donations that are there in the balance sheet will not be allowed as a deduction as a total liability. It's taxable at MMR, and in case the tax has to be paid within 15 days of such a dissolution. In case it is not paid, and interest is applicable at a rate of 1% per month till the date of payment. Section 115 TF is in which the trust will be deemed to be an assessee in default, and penalty, all the penalty provisions that are there in the Act will apply to the trust. I have just brushed through in the end due to lack of time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, disturbance from your side.
Hello. So shall I start with the questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is one question from a participant. That if the trustees have advanced loan and now there are no more trustees, can we repay the loan? I'm repeating the question.
Yeah, there's some noise coming.
Some noise is coming. Okay.
Yeah, better.
Okay. I'm repeating the question. If the trustees has advanced loan and now they are not the trustees anymore, can we repay the loan? And the second is, if below 20,000 loans are given by trustee, can it be repaid in cash? Shall I repeat it once again?
No, I got the question. The second question,
Okay.
repayment of loan under 20,000 in cash. So that's section 269 T that is there is not applicable over here to a trust. So that is possible. But yes, the first question that is there that even if the trustee is now not trustee any longer, the repayment can be done. There is no restriction under the Income Tax Act, but you need to check the local charity, the State Charity Act, the restrictions that are there under that.
Okay. The second question is 15% of net income which is accumulated can be used for repayment of loan to trustees.
Yeah, there is no restriction on non-utilizing. 15% can be utilized in any way, even in the form of repayments.
Okay, thank you, Preeti Madam. So that's it for the question answer session. So moving further, I would like to thank CA Preeti Savla and CA Supriya Kumar and the whole team of the Women Member Empowerment Committee for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to thank our today's speaker, CA Preeti Darod, for explaining the subject so thoroughly in such a short span of time. Thank you, Preeti Madam. And now taking the session further, I would like to request Madhuri Madam to please introduce our next speaker. Over to you, Madhuri Madam. Madhuri Madam.
Thank you. Good evening, all. I first of all thank ICI, Women Empowerment Committee, and Central Council member CA Preeti Savla ji for giving me an opportunity to introduce the young and the dynamic speaker, CA Shweta Panelia Madam. CA Shweta Panelia Madam is a FCA, MCOM, DISA, postgraduate in Diploma in Financial Services, and a certified forensic auditor. Shweta Madam is a practicing chartered accountant, mainly into management consultancy and designing SOPs for a corporate and non-corporates and clients apart from her regular compliance services. She is also a co-opted member of Central Council of ICAI for 21-22, of a Women and Members Empowerment Committee, a co-opted members of WRC of ICAI for 22-23, of Women and Members Empowerment Committee, and a co-opted member of GST and Indirect Tax Committee of WRC for the year 2020-21. And so far she has delivered lectures on various professional subjects. Now I request CA Shweta ma'am to guide our members. Over to you, Shweta madam.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank CA Shripriya ma'am and CA Preeti ma'am. Also want to thank coordinator Varsha ma'am, Madhuri and Kavita. In last session, we get some insight on trust-specific provision. In income tax means the subject is of our core area. Thank you, Preeti ma'am, for giving such a, useful information. I want to say something about WMEC, as last year I was also a part of WMEC. So I know how committee is working for upgrading and upskilling of. Sorry, my camera is off. Sorry. For upgrading and upskilling of female members. Committee is in continuously working for different challenges faced by members and trying to bring way out of them. So we have planned this topic in last year committee meeting. At that time, Kamisha ma'am was chairperson and Pramod Jain sir was vice chairperson. At that time, it was decided that I will give one video of 1 hour regarding this topic. Actually, I have made PPT, but I never get time to prepare a video. So last week when Shanu called, I said, ma'am, we are planning for this VCM. If you are interested, I said, yes, let's use at least that PPT. So as a majority of member today, attending are female members. So let's focus on what the areas we can practice apart from our regular compliance services. I am also a female member and I have also means lots of commitment at my home. So initially it was very difficult for me to comply with means how to handle office with my daughter and all. And uh, in starting I was doing job at SR Steel. So there in internal audit department. So I thought that let's use that experience and work in some different area. So I started to think about how to develop new practice or what to do apart from this traditional regular practice. So I started giving my consultancies to some non-corporate client regarding SOPs or how to systemize your business. Initial experience of mine was not rewarding, or I can say not good, but I'm not a person who quit easily. So we females are by birth very strong, I think. So one I get one client in initially where I can use my knowledge or I can give them some inputs. I started working with them and I started preparing SOPs for that manufacturing unit, and slowly I get the response from that was rewarding. Means it is very helpful for them also and for my furtherance of my career also. So let's start to first of all I will share my screen. Yes. Today's my subject is SOP synonyms of business success. So I'm considering SOP in the means in the area of management consultancy. SOP is one of the part in management consultancy. So before starting, I want to give you some highlights of recent business structure in India. Means India में last week we all celebrated MSME week, right? So we know the importance of MSME in our economy. MSME contributes more than 29% of our GDP and 50% of our exports are responsible from MSME. They are employ more than 11 crore people. So these MSME are traditional business structure. They are run by the second or third generation. Means जो initially एक business start हुआ था जो second third generation अभी run कर रहा है and they are doing turnover in crores rupees. So मतलब they are growing and they are fast growing. So ये सब business structure में क्या है कि उन लोगों का एक प्री डिफाइंड ट्रेडिशनल बिजनेस स्टाइल है जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं सेट कल्चर कि वो एक सेठ वाला कल्चर है, वहां पे बिजनेस चल रहा है, दे आर ग्रोइंग, पर वही टिपिकल पुरानी स्टाइल में चल रहा है। अब जब ये सेकंड और थर्ड जनरेशन आई है, तो वो दे आर एमबीएज और सम फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटी से पढ़े हुए लोग हैं, वो दे वांट टू सेट दिस बिजनेस इन अ means they want to bring corporate culture in their office or in their factory. तो उन लोगों को चाहिए सर्विस हमारी। अब यहाँ पे सर्विस प्रोवाइड करने वाले लोग हैं बिग फर्म, जो प्रोवाइड करते हैं सर्विस बिग कॉर्पोरेट हाउसेस को, और फीस भी चार्ज करते हैं बहुत ज्यादा। तो वी आर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, वी आर कंप्लीट बिजनेस सोल्यूशन प्रोवाइडर। सो स्मॉल फर्म्स को एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है ये एमएसएमई एरिया को सर्व करने की। मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज है जिसको हम सर्व कर सकते हैं, उन लोगों को मीन्स हेल्प कर सकते हैं टू सेट अप देयर बिजनेस इन अ प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्डाइज मैनर। सो ये एक एमएसएमई का स्ट्रक्चर था। नाउ एरियाज ऑफ मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंसी, मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंसी में आप कौन कौन से एरिया में कंसल्टेंसी दे सकते हो, ठीक है। तो सबसे पहला अपना जो टॉपिक है वही है एसओपी फ्रेमिंग एंड इम्प्लीमेंटेशन। मेरी पूरा ये कवर ही है एसओपी पे। तो एसओपी मतलब स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर, अपने इनको बाद में लेते हैं, ठीक है। डेटा ऑटोमाइजेशन मीन्स हम हमेशा सुनते हैं सिस्टम ऑटोमाइजेशन, बट सिस्टम ऑटोमाइज सॉरी हेलो सॉरी इट इज नॉट विजिबल। I didn't get you, sir. It is just this slide, sir. I don't want to move on another slide. Yes. Data automation. The second area is data automation. We have मतलब हम हमेशा सुनते हैं सिस्टम ऑटोमाइजेशन, बट डेटा ऑटोमाइजेशन इज ऑल्सो इक्वली इम्पोर्टेंट। मतलब कि डेटा एक दूसरे के साथ लिंक होना चाहिए और डेटा की रिलायबिलिटी होनी चाहिए, बिकॉज दे आर लिंक्ड विथ ईच अदर। जो जब तक लिंक नहीं होगा तब तक वी कांट रिलाई ऑन दैट डेटा। मतलब सिस्टम इतनी स्ट्रांग होनी चाहिए कि डेटा हमें जो मिले वो प्रॉपर मिले। गार्बेज इन गार्बेज आउट जैसा कंसेप्ट है यहाँ पे, जो हम डालोगे वही निकलेगा, ठीक है। तो एक सिंपल एग्जांपल से हम अगर देखें डेटा ऑटोमाइजेशन को, तो एक सिंपल परचेज प्रोसेस अगर हम देखें, तो परचेज करने के लिए पहले क्या होता है, एक इंडेंट जनरेट होता है। परचेज इंडेंट के बेस पे परचेज मैनेजर है वो कोटेशन मतलब मंगवाएगा बेस्ड ऑन कंपनीज पॉलिसी, ठीक है। कोटेशन मंगवाएगा, फिर वो कोटेशन कंपेयर होगा, कंपेयर होने के बाद उसमें से जिसका लिस्ट L1 सिलेक्ट होता है, L1 को हम लिस्ट वन नहीं बोलेंगे, लॉजिकल वन बोलेंगे, कि जो मतलब हमारा रेट मैच कर रहा है, क्वालिटी मैच कर रहा है, क्वांटिटी मैच कर रहा है, या जो वेंडर है उसका बैकग्राउंड हम चेक करेंगे, मतलब कि जिसने कम कोट किया उसे सीधा नहीं दे सकते हैं, उसका फाइनेंशियल चेक करेंगे। तो उसके बेस पे L1 सिलेक्ट होता है। उसके बाद उसको परचेज ऑर्डर देते हैं हम। परचेज ऑर्डर देने के बाद गुड्स रिसिप्ट होता है, जीआर करते हैं हम। उसके बाद इनवॉइस बुकिंग होता है। तो ऑल दिस स्टेप्स आर कनेक्टेड विथ ईच अदर। मतलब ये जितने भी स्टेप मैं बोली परचेज में, इंडेंट जनरेशन से कोटेशन मंगवाना या फिर L1 सिलेक्ट करना, उसमें से एक ही जगह मैन्युअल इंटरवेंशन होगा जहाँ पे हमें वेंडर सिलेक्ट करना है, L1 वेंडर जहाँ पे सिलेक्ट करना है। अदरवाइज ऑल द सिस्टम आर मूव थ्रू सिस्टम ओनली। मतलब कि सब चीज एक दूसरे से लिंक होनी चाहिए। परचेज इंडेंट लिंक होना चाहिए परचेज ऑर्डर से, जीआर हो रहा है वो लिंक होना चाहिए परचेज ऑर्डर से, परचेज बुक हो रहा है वो लिंक होना चाहिए जीआर से। तो ऑल दिस सिस्टम आर इफ लिंक्ड विथ ईच अदर, तो उसे डेटा ऑटोमाइजेशन बोलेंगे। मतलब ऑटोमेटिक एक दूसरे के साथ ये डेटा लिंक हो रहा है। थर्ड है मेरा बिजनेस फंक्शन इंप्रूवमेंट। तो बिजनेस फंक्शन इंप्रूवमेंट, जब आपके ईच एंड एवरी एरिया स्टैंडर्डाइज होंगे, आपको पता है कौन सा काम कैसे करना है, तो आपका बिजनेस फंक्शन जो फंक्शनली अपना जो बिजनेस जो है वो अल्टीमेटली इंप्रूव हो जाएगा। बिजनेस प्रोसेस री इंजीनियरिंग, बिजनेस प्रोसेस री इंजीनियरिंग वैसे तो एक टेक्निकल टॉपिक है, बट जब आप कंसल्टेंसी करने बैठते हो एंड आपको बिजनेस का ईच एंड एवरी एरिया पता है, तो आप इसमें भी कंसल्टेंसी प्रोवाइड कर सकते हो। कॉस्ट मैनेजमेंट, अब वी ऑल आर वेरी गुड इन कॉस्टिंग। तो कॉस्ट मतलब हम लोग हमारी रेगुलर कंप्लाइंस सर्विस देखते हैं, पर कभी नहीं सोचते कि ये एक एरिया है जहाँ पे हम सर्विस दे सकते हैं। एक कॉस्टिंग की भी अलग से एसओपी बना सकते हैं। तो कॉस्टिंग मतलब प्रोडक्ट वाइज कॉस्टिंग दे दो, या आइटम वाइज कॉस्टिंग दे दो, लेबर आवर कितने उसकी कॉस्टिंग दे दो, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कितनी यूज हो रही है पर पर यूनिट और पर केजी उसकी कॉस्टिंग दे दो। मैनेजमेंट को जो हिसाब से मतलब जो चीज चाहिए उस हिसाब से कॉस्टिंग करके दे दो। दे आर ऑल्सो मतलब वो भी खुद कॉस्ट निकालते हैं, बट उन वो लोग जो कॉस्ट निकालते हैं उनमें बहुत सारे एरिया है जो कवर नहीं होते हैं। मतलब उन लोगों को आइडिया नहीं है ये चीज मुझे कवर करनी है। तो उस चीज में अगर हम प्रॉपर कॉस्टिंग निकाल के देंगे तो उनकी जो कॉस्टिंग आ रही है उनके दिमाग में जो एक कॉस्टिंग है वो और एक्चुअल कॉस्टिंग हम निकाल के देंगे उसमें बहुत डिफरेंस होगा। तो एक कॉस्टिंग भी एरिया है जहाँ पे आप अपनी सर्विस दे सकते हैं। एक उसके बाद का एरिया है फंड मैनेजमेंट। तो फंड मैनेजमेंट मतलब की सक्सेस फैक्टर है फॉर एनी बिजनेस। मतलब फंड इज नॉट ओनली अबाउट मैनेजिंग योर मनी, बट इट इज ऑल्सो हाउ टू यूटिलाइज ऑल योर रिसोर्सेज प्रॉपरली एंड एफिशिएंटली। तो फंड मैनेजमेंट, हाउ टू मैनेज योर फंड, वेयर टू यूटिलाइज इट, ये सभी एक सर्विस हम दे सकते हैं। ह्यूमन रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट, ह्यूमन रिसोर्स एकदम ग्रोइंग एरिया है सर प्रैक्टिस के लिए। मतलब कि बहुत सारी इंटरनेशनल बॉडी भी आजकल हाउ टू अकाउंट ह्यूमन रिसोर्स इन अकाउंट उसके बारे में मतलब सोच रही है। तो दिस इज ऑल्सो वन एरिया वेर वी कैन प्रोवाइड अवर कंसल्टेंसी, हाउ टू मैनेज योर ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज, हाउ टू यूटिलाइज योर रिसोर्सेज और हाउ टू रिटेन दैम। कस्टमर रिलेशनशिप मैनेजमेंट एफएमसीजी के लिए बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट एरिया है। मतलब कि आपके कस्टमर को आपका कौन सा प्रॉफिटेबल कस्टमर है। प्रॉफिटेबल इन द सेंस लेके गुड्स लेके तो सब जाते हैं, पेमेंट भी सब करते हैं, कौन जल्दी पेमेंट करता है तो प्रॉफिटेबल। कुछ टाइम बाद वो पेमेंट करते हैं तो सर वो आपका प्रॉफिट नहीं है, वो आपका इंटरेस्ट कवर हो रहा है। सो प्रॉफिटेबल कस्टमर कौन है, कौन सा कस्टमर है जो अपना लॉयल है या जिसको हम रिटेन कर पा रहे हैं। व्हाट इज द नीड इन योर फ्यूचर, मतलब कौन से कस्टमर छोड़ के जा रहे हैं। तो ये सब चीज भी एक सर एरिया है जहाँ पे हम हमारी कंसल्टेंसी दे सकते हैं। सेल्स एंड मार्केटिंग एंड टैक्स कंसल्टेंसी, टैक्स कंसल्टेंसी में तो हम सब मतलब एकदम एक्सपर्ट है तो इसके लिए हम ज्यादा नहीं बोलेंगे। नाउ अपने आते हैं एसओपीज पे। व्हाट इज द एसओपीज मीन्स मीनिंग ऑफ एसओपी, तो स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर, मतलब सेट ऑफ सीक्वेंस कि हमें कोई एक टास्क करना है तो वो कैसे करना है। यू कैन अप्लाई प्रिंसिपल ऑफ स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन इन ईच एंड एवरी प्रोसेस ऑफ योर बिजनेस। मतलब being how to handle your telephone calls or how to follow your safety standard, or you can say how to assemble, package or dispatch a product। each and every area आप एसओपी डिफाइन कर सकते हैं। अब एसओपी बनाएंगे तो उसके मतलब थोड़ी कम हम हाइलाइट्स ले लेते हैं, व्हाट इज बेनिफिट्स, व्हाट इज ड्रॉबैक, और फिर हम एसओपी कैसे प्रिपेयर करनी है या क्या फॉर्मेट होना चाहिए वहां पे जाते हैं। ठीक है, तो बेनिफिट्स ऑफ एसओपीज। सो क्लैरिटी, अगर आपका कोई एक सिस्टम है जिसमें पता है कि मुझे ये काम इस हिसाब से इसी स्टेप्स में करना है, तो डेफिनेटली स्टाफ को क्लैरिटी है कौन सा काम कैसे करना है। मेजरेबिलिटी, तो आप अगर कोई काम उसी ढंग से उसी तरह से बार बार करते रहते हो तो यू कैन इजिली मेजर योर मतलब वर्क कि हाउ यू आर डूइंग इट। पहले आप 10 मिनट में करते थे, अब 8 मिनट में करने लगे हो, या वो एक मेजरेबिलिटी आती है। क्वालिटी, सेम काम सेम वे में आप बार बार करते रहोगे तो इट इज गोइंग टू इम्प्रूव योर क्वालिटी ऑल्सो। रिपीटेबिलिटी एंड एरर एलिमिनेशन, तो आप रिपीटेडली वो काम कर रहे हो तो उसमें गलती के चांस भी कम हो जाएंगे। मतलब एक काम है जो आपको एक ही तरीके से करना है। मैनी टाइम क्या होता है कोई एक काम है वो 2-3 अलग अलग तरीके से आप कर सकते हो। इफ आपने एसओपी डिफाइन नहीं की है तो आप वो काम कोई भी तरीके से, मतलब पहले कोई ने एक तरीके से किया, फिर कोई दूसरी तरीके से कर रहा है, तीसरा कोई अलग तरीके से कर रहा है, तो एक ही तरीके से करोगे तो एरर एलिमिनेट होगी। आपको पता है ये ऐसे ही करना है और बार बार वही फॉलो करते रहोगे। क्विक लर्निंग एंड रिड्यूसिंग ट्रेनिंग कॉस्ट, जब आपकी एसओपी डिफाइंड है तो जब कोई अगर इफ कंपनी इज हायरिंग न्यू एम्प्लॉई एंड आई हैव टू गिव देम ट्रेनिंग, तो मतलब मेरे लिए काम इजी हो जाएगा उनको ट्रेनिंग देना। जैसे कि एक सेट स्टैंडर्ड डिफाइंड एसओपी है तो मैं वो एसओपी उस एम्प्लॉय को दे दूंगी कि ये एसओपी पढ़ो, उसे सारे सिस्टम समझा दूंगी। एक दो बार समझाने के बाद बेस्ड ऑन दैट स्टैंडर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट दे आर इजिली डू दैट वर्क। मीन्स रिड्यूस ट्रेनिंग कॉस्ट, आई एम सेइंग नॉट सेइंग एलिमिनेटिंग ट्रेनिंग कॉस्ट। ट्रेनिंग को एलिमिनेट कभी नहीं कर सकते, उसके रिक्वायरमेंट हमेशा हमेशा सोसाइटी में रहती है। तो ये एक मतलब आप रिलाई हो सकते हो कुछ हद तक विथ द यूज ऑफ एसओपी। स्ट्रेस फ्री मैनेजमेंट, जब मैनेजमेंट को पता है उसके पूरा यूनिट है जो एक प्री डिफाइंड सिस्टम पे चल रहा है, तो दे कैन कॉन्सेंट्रेट ऑन सम कोर बिजनेस एक्टिविटी, और उनका कुछ काम है जहाँ पे वो फोकस इजिली कर सकते हैं। सॉरी, यस। Now after benefits I हर सिक्के के दो पहलू होते हैं, जब बेनिफिट्स है तो कुछ ड्रॉबैक्स भी है। तो एक तो है कॉस्ट। इनिशियल जो कॉस्ट है वो मैनी टाइम मतलब इंडस्ट्री आर नॉट रेडी टू बियर दिस, उनको स्टार्टिंग में कॉस्ट ज्यादा लगती है। रेजिस्टेंस फ्रॉम मैनेजमेंट, मतलब कि बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि हम कोई एक सिस्टम डिजाइन करते हैं तो एम्प्लॉय को तो बोल सकते हैं ये फॉलो करो, बट मैनेजमेंट को नहीं बोल सकते कि सर आप ये ऐसे करिए। मतलब उन लोगों का रेजिस्टेंस होता है और हम मैनेजमेंट के साथ आर्ग्यू भी नहीं कर सकते। एम्प्लॉय को तो हम बोल भी सकते हैं कि भाई ये ऐसे नहीं करना है, ऐसे कर। मैनेजमेंट का रेजिस्टेंस होता है जो एक बड़ा चैलेंजिंग फैक्टर है। रेजिस्टेंस फ्रॉम एम्प्लॉय, एम्प्लॉय को भी लगता है कि यार ये नया सीखना पड़ेगा, नया करना पड़ेगा, मतलब इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल फॉर मी। तो उन लोगों के हिसाब से भी उन लोगों को भी थोड़ी इनसिक्योरिटी फील होती है। रेजिस्टेंस फ्रॉम कंसल्टेंट, मतलब हमको हमारा ही खुद का रेजिस्टेंस कि हम बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि मैनेजमेंट की जो इंस्ट्रक्शन होती है उसे इतना एग्रेसिवली फॉलो करते हैं, तो मैनी टाइम ऐसा हो जाता है कि कोई सिस्टम है जो एक्चुअली वर्क नहीं कर रही, बट बिकॉज ऑफ मैनेजमेंट इंस्ट्रक्शन हम लोग ध्यान नहीं देते हैं कि व्हाट ग्राउंड लेवल एम्प्लॉइज से, मतलब उन चीजों पे हमारा कम फोकस रहता है, जबकि एक्चुअल में वर्क वो लोग कर रहे हैं, उन लोगों को पता है ये सिस्टम चलेगी नहीं चलेगी या क्या प्रॉब्लम है। ठीक है, और हाउ टू ओवरकम ऑन दी ड्रॉबैक्स। तो सबसे पहला तो है कंटिन्यूअस डिस्कशन विथ मैनेजमेंट। मैनेजमेंट के साथ आप कंटिन्यू डिस्कशन करते रहिए रिगार्डिंग सिस्टम, मतलब आप कुछ इंप्लीमेंट भी कर रहे हैं, कुछ नया वर्कआउट भी कर रहे हैं, हर चीज उन लोगों के साथ डिस्कस करिए। गिव एम्प्लॉय ट्रस्ट दैट देयर जॉब इज सिक्योर, मतलब उन लोगों को भी एक ट्रस्ट फील होना चाहिए कि लर्न न्यू थिंग एंड इफ एनीथिंग विल हैपन आई एम हियर। डिस्कस विथ एम्प्लॉय अबाउट रीजन फॉर द रेसिस्टेंस, अगर वो कुछ नहीं कर पा रहा है तो उनसे एक बार डिस्कशन करिए व्हाई यू आर नॉट एबल टू डू इट। गिव ट्रेनिंग टू दैम, एम्प्लॉय को ट्रेनिंग दीजिए, अगर नई कोई सिस्टम आप ला रहे हैं तो उन लोगों को सिखाइए। और यहाँ पे मैं ज्यादा फोकस करूंगी लोकल लैंग्वेज पर। एम्प्लॉय के साथ अगर आप बात कर रहे हैं तो टॉक विद देम इन द लोकल लैंग्वेज ओनली। मेक योर सेल्फ अवेलेबल व्हेन नीडेड, जब भी जरूरत हो आप अवेलेबल होने चाहिए, आइदर वो मैनेजमेंट की तरफ से हो, आइदर वो ग्राउंड लेवल एम्प्लॉय की साइड से हो, या वो मिडल मैनेजमेंट की साइड से हो। बी रेडी फॉर चेंज इफ नॉट गेटिंग डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट, अगर आपको रिजल्ट नहीं मिल रहा है तो डोंट स्टिक टू दैट सिस्टम, मतलब कि सिस्टम को आपको बनाना है तो वो उससे चिपक मतलब स्टिक नहीं हो जाना है आपको, मतलब चेंज करना है अगर आपको डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट नहीं देता है तो। हाउ टू स्टार्ट क्रिएटिंग एसओपी, तो एसओपी बनाना स्टार्ट कैसे करें सर, जैसे कि हम यहाँ पे एक एग्जांपल लेंगे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज का। तो सबसे पहले अगर मुझे कोई एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज की वहाँ पे मैं कंसल्टेंट अपॉइंट हूँ तो मुझे वो कैसे उनके एसओपीज डिजाइन करनी है। फर्स्ट पॉइंट है डॉक्यूमेंट एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द बिजनेस, मीन्स आपको हर एक चीज डॉक्यूमेंट करनी है। वहां पे जाके आप बैठोगे मैनेजमेंट से या ऑथराइज पर्सन से इनिशियल मीटिंग करोगे तो उसके बाद हर एक चीज आपको लिखनी है, समझनी है, या उनकी फैक्ट्री है या जो भी है वहां पे आपको घूम के प्रोसेस समझनी है कि कैसे ये सब हो रहा है। तो अब क्या क्या इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करेंगे, तो रिलेटेड कंपनी, तो सबसे पहले तो यही हो गया कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है, ट्रेडिंग है या सर्विस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है। नेचर ऑफ वर्क, वो लोग काम क्या कर रहे हैं, मतलब मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है तो प्रोडक्ट कुछ बना रहे हैं, सर्विस है तो कुछ सर्विस प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, ट्रेडिंग है या कमीशन एजेंट है वॉट एवर। ठीक है, डिटेल्स ऑफ ओनर्स एंड डायरेक्टर्स, कि कौन इसका ओनर है या डायरेक्टर है, उसकी सारी डिटेल ऑफ द पर्सन हु हैव एक्चुअल कंट्रोल। मैनी टाइम ओनर और डायरेक्टर कोई और होता है, एक्चुअल कंट्रोल किसी और का होता है, तो उनकी डिटेल्स चाहिए। हायरार्की, मतलब वहां पे आप जो वर्किंग प्लेस पे जा रहे हो वहां पे हायरार्की डिफाइंड है या नहीं, मतलब मैनी टाइम नॉर्मल ये जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होता है ना उसमें दो या तीन हायरार्की होती है, एक मैनेजमेंट होता है, एक वर्कर होता है और बाकी सब एम्प्लॉय होते हैं। तो देखिए कि वहां पे कौन से लेवल तक की हायरार्की डिफाइंड है। लोकेशन ऑफ द प्लांट, कहाँ पर उनका प्लांट सिचुएट है, कहाँ पे उनकी एडमिन ऑफिस सिचुएटेड है। लोकेशन ऑफ द स्टोर्स, गोडाउन कहाँ पे है उन लोगों का, प्रोडक्शन कहाँ पे होता है। डिटेल ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर इंस्टॉल्ड, मतलब अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर है या ईआरपी है वो कौन सा वहां पे इंस्टॉल है। जब मतलब ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट है क्योंकि डेटा उन लोगों का कैसे फ्लो कर रहा है, कहाँ से आ रहा है, वो मतलब सॉफ्टवेयर की डिटेल आपको होना बहुत जरूरी है। आपको थोड़ा बहुत नॉलेज भी अगर उस सॉफ्टवेयर का हो तो बहुत अच्छा होता है। प्रीवियस ईयर टर्नओवर क्या है उस कंपनी का, प्रीवियस ईयर प्रॉफिट क्या था उस कंपनी का, कौन कौन से डिवीजन है उस कंपनी में, ये सब हो गई डिटेल्स रिगार्डिंग कंपनी। अब डिटेल्स रिगार्डिंग प्रोडक्ट, प्रोडक्ट की भी आपको कुछ डिटेल्स चाहिए, जैसे कि लिस्ट ऑफ द रॉ मटेरियल्स, लिस्ट ऑफ द फिनिश गुड्स, आइडिया अबाउट कंजम्पशन मतलब कितना कंजम्पशन होता है, कितना प्रोडक्शन होता है, नंबर ऑफ प्रोसेस इन पर्टिकुलर डिवीजन, एक डिवीजन में कौन कौन सी प्रोसेसेस हो रही है, डिस्पैच कितना है उनका, वेस्टेज कितना आ रहा है, या कुछ प्रोसेस गेन आ रहा है तो कितना गेन आ रहा है, मटेरियल जॉब वर्क पे हम लोग आउटसाइड जॉब वर्क पे कुछ मटेरियल दे रहे हैं, मटेरियल कुछ जॉब वर्क पे आ रहा है, एक्सेट्रा ऑल, ये सब आपके प्रोडक्ट रिलेटेड डिटेल हो गई। related to person, a person related detail matlab who is the main accountant there, who is the plant controller, who is the data entry operator, or who is the store in charge, who is the responsible person for backup of data, ये सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, मतलब ये सब भूल जाता है कि डेटा का रेगुलरली बैकअप भी लेना है, ठीक है। रिलेटेड टू कंप्लायंस, तो मतलब कंप्लायंस के लिए हु इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल, मतलब टीडीएस टीसीएस का अगर कोई कंसल्टेंट है, पीए पीएसआईसी का कोई कंसल्टेंट है, इंटरनल ऑडिट इफ एप्लीकेबल उन लोगों को, तो इंटरनल ऑडिटर कौन है, स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर कौन है, जीएसटी कंसल्टेंट कौन है, तो यू शुड डॉक्यूमेंट ईच एंड एवरी शॉर्ट डिटेल्स, मतलब आपको जितनी भी सारी चीजें उनसे डिस्कशन में आए सब डॉक्यूमेंट करनी है। डिस्कशन विथ मैनेजमेंट, और कुछ डिटेल आए तो जनरल ऑल अदर डिटेल्स भी आप अंदर डॉक्यूमेंट कर लीजिए। और फिर लिस्ट बनाइए कौन कौन सी चीज में आपको एसओपीज बनानी है। आप मतलब जब आपको पूरा बिजनेस समझ में आ गया, आपको पता चल गई कि इतनी इतनी प्रोसेस है, ये प्रोडक्शन स्टेटस है, तो आप फिर लिस्ट बना सकते हैं कौन कौन सी जगह पे मुझे एसओपीज बनानी है। तो पहले तो एसओपीज के लिए प्रोसेस का लिस्ट बना लिया, प्रोसेस को हम टुकड़ों में बांट लेंगे, कोई एक प्रोसेस है तो कितनी मतलब वहां पे क्या क्या पार्ट है उस प्रोसेस के वो बना लेंगे। एक एसओपी का फॉर्मेट सिलेक्ट कर लेंगे। एसओपी का फॉर्मेट मैं बोलूँ तो मतलब आपको एक डिटेल एसओपी चाहिए, या एक चेकलिस्ट टाइप एसओपी चाहिए, या फ्लो चार्ट टाइप एसओपी चाहिए, एक फॉर्मेट सिलेक्ट कर लेंगे। फिर आप एक बार इनिशियल एक एसओपी बना लेंगे और फिर एनालाइज करेंगे। सो हाउ टू फ्रेम योर एसओपी, द फर्स्ट पॉइंट इज डू इट। बस एक बार आप सारी चीजें लिख लीजिए और एक क्रोनोलॉजी में सब कुछ लिख लीजिए आपके चेकलिस्ट के हिसाब से। इनिशियली मतलब कि ये प्रोसेस में फर्स्ट स्टेप ये है, सेकंड स्टेप ये है, थर्ड स्टेप ये है करके डॉक्यूमेंट कर लीजिए। उसके बाद आप चेक कीजिए कि डिड द वे आई डू गेट मी डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट, मतलब मैं जो कर रहा हूँ उससे मुझे वो जो रिजल्ट चाहिए वो मिलेगा, और एवरी टाइम मैं ये सेम टास्क परफॉर्म कर सकता हूँ इन द सेम वे। अगर आप ये दो क्वेश्चन का आंसर पॉजिटिवली है तो यू हैव प्रिपेयर्ड योर एसओपी। अगर आपको कहीं पे भी डाउट है तो रिवर्क ऑन इट। ओके, डू इट, डॉक्यूमेंट इट। अब आपको डॉक्यूमेंट करनी ईच एंड एवरी चीज, आपने समझ ली क्रोनोलॉजी, तो फिर उसे लिखना है। लिखने के टाइम पे आपको क्या करना है, फर्स्ट प्रोसेस, सपोज मैं एग्जांपल दूं आपको अगेन परचेज का, तो हु इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर परचेज, ठीक है। तो परचेज कैसे होगी, परचेज ऑर्डर के बेस पे। तो परचेज ऑर्डर एक है जो चेक पॉइंट है जिसके बेस पे परचेज हो रही है। परचेज ऑर्डर कौन डालेगा, परचेज कौन करेगा, परचेज करेगा तो उसके लिए जो हमने पूरी सिस्टम मैंने आपको आगे भी बताई कि हम लोग पहले कोटेशन मंगवाएंगे, मिनिमम 3 कोटेशन या 2 या जो भी कंपनी डिसाइड करे उस हिसाब से कोटेशन मंगवाएंगे। कोटेशन में के बेस पे परचेज ऑर्डर डालेंगे, परचेज ऑर्डर के बेस पे गुड्स रिसिप्ट होगा, गुड्स रिसिप्ट होगा उसके बाद उसकी जीआर नोट बनेगी, जीआर नोट के बेस पे परचेज बुक होगा। तो ये पूरी क्रोनोलॉजी हो गई। कौन सी जो प्रोसेस है वो कौन करेगा परचेज में, परचेज मैनेजर इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर परचेज ऑर्डर। फिर जब गुड्स रिसिप्ट होगा तो उसकी एंट्री कौन करेगा, परचेज बुक कौन करेगा बेस्ड ऑन इनवॉइस, चलन की एंट्री कौन करेगा, गेट एंट्री कौन करेगा। तो एक सारा डॉक्यूमेंट हो गया। फिर डिस्कस विथ मैनेजमेंट फॉर अप्रूवल। अब जब आपने पूरा डॉक्यूमेंटेड कर लिया है तो मैनेजमेंट के साथ आप डिस्कस करिए पहले कि ये एक एसओपी है, ये इसमें ये पर्सन है, ये इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबल पर्सन, दिस इज द चेक पॉइंट, यहाँ पे चेक पॉइंट है, ये डॉक्यूमेंट के बेस पे ये प्रोसेस होगी। जैसे कि गेट एंट्री कहाँ से होगी, तो चलन के बेस पे होगी, तो उसके लिए इनपुट डॉक्यूमेंट क्या हो गया, चलन। तो चलन होगा तो ही गेट एंट्री की एंट्री हम कर पाएंगे। परचेज बुकिंग कहाँ पे होगी, तो गेट एंट्री के बेस पे, और परचेज इनवॉइस के बेस पे। तो ये चेक पॉइंट हो गया कि यहाँ पे परचेज इनवॉइस इज नेसेसरी टू बुक परचेज इन द सिस्टम। ओके, और उसके बाद मैनेजमेंट के साथ डिस्कशन करने के बाद डेलीगेट एक टेस्ट चेक करिए, दे दीजिए एसओपी ग्राउंड लेवल पे इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए। अब देखिए मतलब मैनेजर को दे दीजिए कि दिस इज योर परचेज एसओपी, यू हैव टू फॉलो इट एवरी टाइम। अगर वो फॉलो करते करते वो सिंपली उसे फॉलो कर पा रहे हैं तो इम्प्लीमेंट इट। अगर उसमें उसमें कुछ आपको मतलब प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहा है तो डिस्कस विद देम। मेनी टाइम यू विल फाइंड सम गैप इन एसओपी, तो वो ग्राउंड लेवल पे डिस्कशन जो एक्चुअली इम्प्लीमेंट मतलब जो काम करने वाले हैं उनके साथ डिस्कशन करने के बाद ही आपको पता चलेगा इफ देयर इज एनी गैप इन दिस, एंड इफ देयर इज एनी गैप रिफाइन इट और डेलीगेट इट। अब हम एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज की क्या क्या प्रोसेस होती है उस पर डिस्कशन करते हैं। तो जैसे कि पहले ही बताया था, सैंपल प्रोसेस में सबसे पहले होती है इंक्वायरी। अब आपका दो हिसाब से इंडस्ट्री वर्क करती है। एक तो सेल आपका पहले फिक्स है, सेल के बेस पे आप प्रोडक्शन करते हो, या तो आप डायरेक्ट प्रोडक्शन करते हो और सेल करते हो, ठीक है। तो मतलब इंक्वायरी आएगी पहले, सबसे पहले परचेज के लिए। परचेज की इंक्वायरी और इंडेंट जनरेट होगा, उसके बाद कोटेशन होगा, फिर प्राइस कंपैरिजन चार्ट होगा, परचेज ऑर्डर प्रिपेयर होगा और एल1 सिलेक्ट होगा। ये सब डिटेल हमने पहले देख ली, तो मैं इसमें डिटेल में नहीं जा रही हूँ। उसके बाद है प्रोसेस फ्लो ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज ऑन रिसिप्ट ऑफ मटेरियल। एक बार मटेरियल फैक्ट्री में आ गया, उसके बाद क्या होता है? तो सबसे पहले तो गेट एंट्री होती है। गेट एंट्री मतलब गेट पे एक रजिस्टर होता है जहाँ पे मैन्युअल एंट्री वहां पे बैठ के एक बंदा करता है, ठीक है, कि कितनी क्वांटिटी है, कौन सा माल है, क्या है, वो सब एक गेट एंट्री होती है। गुड्स रिसिप्ट बुकिंग बेस्ड ऑन चालान, मीन्स वो जो चालान आया उसके बेस पे आप सिस्टम में एंट्री करेंगे। गुड्स रिसिप्ट पहले कहाँ पे हुई? रजिस्टर में हुई। उसके बाद कहाँ पे हो रही है? गुड्स रिसिप्ट इन सिस्टम। सिस्टम में आप चालान के हिसाब से एंट्री कर रहे हो। अब जब वो माल अपने गेट पे आ चुका है, अपने गोडाउन में अपने यहाँ पे आ चुका है, क्वालिटी चेक इफ एप्लीकेबल, आप उसका क्वालिटी चेक करोगे। ऐसे तो अपने गोडाउन में जाने नहीं देंगे। क्वालिटी चेक करने के लिए आप एक अलग एसओपी बना सकते हो। मीन्स आपका जो क्राइटेरिया है, कलर है, डिजाइन है, वेट है, या वॉट एवर इज योर क्राइटेरिया, तो उसके हिसाब से क्वालिटी चेक होगा। अगर क्वालिटी चेक में पास हुआ तो आप उसे ट्रांसफर कर दोगे स्टोर में। स्टोर में मटेरियल ट्रांसफर हो गया। अब वो मटेरियल स्टोर मैनेजर इश्यू करेगा प्रोडक्शन के लिए मशीन पे, ठीक है। प्रोडक्शन स्टोर मैनेजर उसे ट्रांसफर करेगा। और परचेज बुकिंग होती है बेस्ड ऑन इनवॉइस। ये हमने पहले जो गुड्स रिसिप्ट किया था वो चालान के बेस पे किया था। परचेज बुकिंग जो फाइनेंशियल एंट्री होती है जिसपे हम जीएसटी की क्रेडिट लेते हैं परचेज सेल, वो बेस्ड ऑन इनवॉइस होगा, ठीक है। आफ्टर इश्यूइंग ऑन प्रोडक्शन, माल हमने इश्यू कर दिया है प्रोडक्शन के लिए, तो हम जब हम एक मटेरियल इश्यू करते हैं तो फिर मटेरियल वहां से मशीन पे प्रोडक्शन के लिए इश्यू होता है। प्रोडक्शन मैनेजर उसे मॉनिटर करता है, मतलब वो मशीन पे गया, फिर उसमें से क्या वेस्टेज निकला है, या फिनिश गुड्स कितना बना है, कुछ प्रोसेस में गेन आ रहा है तो वो क्या है। क्वालिटी चेक करेंगे फिनिश गुड्स की, मतलब कि वो हमारी क्वालिटी के हिसाब से है या सेकंड लेवल की क्वालिटी है या वेस्टेज ही जनरेट हुआ है। और अगर आफ्टर चेकिंग एवरीथिंग हम उसे दे देंगे गोडाउन में फॉर डिलीवरी। डिलीवरी कौन से बेस पे होगी? सेल ऑर्डर के बेस पे। सेल ऑर्डर जो आया है उस हिसाब से हम डिलीवरी शेड्यूल डिसाइड करेंगे, और सेल अगेन बुक होगा सेल इनवॉइस के बेस पे, ठीक है। तो एक प्रोसेस हो गया हमारा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज का। अब मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट करते क्या है, ठीक है। तो मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट मतलब एक हिसाब से बोले तो प्रोवाइड सोल्यूशन फॉर एनी प्रॉब्लम फेस टू क्लाइंट, मतलब बी रेडी, आपको कोई भी तरह का क्वेश्चन वहां पे पूछा जा सकता है, बी इट रिगार्डिंग रेगुलर कंप्लायंस, बी इट रिगार्डिंग सिस्टम प्रोडक्शन, या प्रोडक्शन प्लानिंग भी आपको पूछ सकते हैं, बहुत सारी चीजें होते हैं, ठीक है। तो प्रोवाइड सोल्यूशन फॉर प्रॉब्लम फेस बाय क्लाइंट्स, इम्प्रूव वर्क एफिशिएंसी, आप उन लोगों की एफिशिएंसी कैसे बढ़ा सकते हो। एसओपीज इज द मतलब एकदम बेस है वो, कि उससे आप मतलब सारा प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो सकता है। डिजाइन एसओपी अलाइन विथ रिसेंट बिजनेस प्रैक्टिसेस, मतलब आपको एसओपी तो डिजाइन करनी है, बट इट इज नॉट लाइक स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर, तो स्टैंडर्ड होगी हर बिजनेस के लिए, बिजनेस टू बिजनेस, या आई कैन से मतलब पर्सन टू पर्सन वो अलग होगी, मतलब वहां का कल्चर क्या है, उन लोगों का सिस्टम क्या है, उस हिसाब से आपको डिजाइन करनी है एसओपी। क्रिएट वैल्यू एंड इंक्रीज प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी, अब आप जब सिस्टम से काम करते हो ना, तो सर सब कुछ एकदम परफेक्टली होता है, तो इट इज गोइंग टू गेन सम प्रॉफिट, मतलब आपको फायदा होगा ही होगा। कीप क्लाइंट अपडेटेड विथ रिसेंट चेंजेस, मतलब रेगुलरली उनको मार्केट में मतलब यहाँ तक कि कंसल्टेंसी की, सर आप माल डिस्पैच कर रहे हैं, मैन्युअली कर रहे हैं, बारकोड लगवा दीजिए, बारकोड से आपका काम इजी हो जाएगा, स्टॉक इजीली मेंटेन होगा। तो मतलब मार्केट में अभी नया क्या चल रहा है उसका भी क्लाइंट को रेगुलरली अपडेट देता है। एनालिसिस ऑफ डाटा फॉर रिपोर्टिंग एंड रेगुलर रिपोर्टिंग बाय एमआईएस टू क्लाइंट, अब डेटा जो रिपोर्ट देते हैं, मतलब आप आपकी कंसल्टेंसी दे सकते हो इन फॉर्म ऑफ एमआईएस, अलग अलग तरह की मैनेजमेंट इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम, मतलब आपका प्रोडक्शन क्या है, आपका वेस्टेज क्या है, या आपका सेल कितना है, सेल और परचेस का आपको पता है, आपकी रिसिप्ट और कलेक्शन कितना हो रहा है, या आप इंटरेस्ट कितना पे कर रहे हो, एकदम मतलब एक अप टू डेट एमआईएस आप दे सकते हो। चैलेंजेस तो जो एसओपी की चैलेंजेस है मोस्टली वही सारी चैलेंजेस मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंसी की है। डिजाइनिंग एसओपी सूटेबल फॉर योर क्लाइंट, मतलब कि क्लाइंट के जिस हिसाब से सूट हो पाए वैसी पर्सनलाइज एसओपी डिजाइन करना इज द बिगेस्ट चैलेंज। रेजिस्टेंस टू चेंज बाय क्लाइंट इटसेल्फ, मैनी टाइम जिसने हमें अपॉइंट किया है उनको ही चेंज नहीं, मतलब उन लोगों को एक सिस्टम है जो सेट हो गई है, तो उनके सामने से जो रेजिस्टेंस आता है वो एक चैलेंजिंग पॉइंट है। ट्रेडिशनल वे ऑफ फंक्शन, मतलब उन लोगों का एक जो सेट ट्रेडिशनल वे जो डिसाइड हो चुका है तो उसमें चेंज नहीं होना चाहते वो लोग। अनस्किल्ड स्टाफ और रिजिड बिहेवियर ऑफ देम, मतलब हर जगह आप ये प्रॉब्लम तो फेस करेंगे ही कि स्टाफ अनस्किल्ड है या मतलब पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है। हाई आईटी एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कॉस्ट, आप बोलोगे कि सर आपको अगर स्टॉक अच्छे से मेंटेन करना है तो ये ईआरपी लगवा लीजिए, एसएपी लगवा लीजिए या एनीथिंग, तो वो इनिशियली कॉस्ट उनको ज्यादा लगेगी, लॉन्ग रन में उन लोगों को बहुत फायदा होगा, बट इनिशियली ये सब चैलेंजेस है। शॉर्ट टर्म हाई कॉस्ट एंड लो बेनिफिट्स, इन शॉर्ट टर्म आपको ये कॉस्ट सब ज्यादा ही लगेगी। अब ये कुछ फॉर्मेट्स मैंने एसओपी के डाले हैं, उससे पहले मैं क्विकली आपको बता देती हूँ कि एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज होती है तो उसमें कौन कौन सी एसओपीज आप बना सकते हो। तो सबसे पहले हम स्टार्ट करें तो वेंडर रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्म। वेंडर रजिस्ट्रेशन भी एक सर बहुत लंबी प्रोसेस है, मीन्स अंदर आपको सारी डिटेल कवर होनी चाहिए, एमएसएमई का रिपोर्टिंग करना है, जीएसटी में क्रेडिट नहीं दिखी, क्वार्टरली है मंथली है, तो एक आप स्टैंडर्डाइज फॉर्म बना दीजिए कि इतनी डिटेल कंप्लीट होगी तो ही मेरा वेंडर रजिस्टर होगा। रॉ मटेरियल प्रोक्योरमेंट की एक एसओपी बना सकते हैं, हाउ टू प्रोक्योर और रॉ मटेरियल। प्रोक्योरमेंट ऑफ जनरल आइटम, मतलब अदर देन रॉ मटेरियल स्पेयर पार्ट्स है, स्टेशनरी है या कुछ भी जनरल आइटम है तो उसकी प्रोक्योरमेंट की एसओपी बन सकती है। गेट एंट्री क्वालिटी चेक एंड जीआरएम, उसकी भी एक एसओपी बना सकते हैं। रॉ मटेरियल इन्वेंटरी मैनेजमेंट, हाउ टू मैनेज योर इन्वेंटरी इन गोडाउन, तो उसकी एक एसओपी बन सकती है। स्टोर स्पेयर्स कंज्यूमेबल एंड पैकिंग मटेरियल जो होता है उसका मैनेजमेंट कैसे करना है। प्रोसेस इश्यू फॉर बुकिंग एंड कंजम्पशन, प्रोसेस में आपने जो मटेरियल इश्यू किया उसका बुक कैसे करेंगे, कंजम्पशन कैसे बुक करेंगे, उसकी एक मतलब आपका जो प्रोसेस में गेन आ रहा है, शॉर्टेज आ रहा है तो उसका कैलकुलेशन कैसे करेंगे। कुछ परसेंटेज डिफाइंड है उससे ज्यादा आता है तो उसका रिपोर्टिंग कैसे करेंगे, ये सब चीज आप अंदर कवर कर सकते हो। फिर परचेज इनवॉइस बुकिंग, परचेज इनवॉइस पैसे पहले भी मैंने बताया कौन से बेस पे होगा, जीआर हुआ है, चालान हुआ है, उसके बेस में परचेज इनवॉइस आएगा, परचेज इनवॉइस का बुकिंग होगा, तो उसकी भी पूरी एक सिस्टम होती है। कुछ एसओपीज मैं आपको दिखा दूंगी अभी, बट ये सब एरिया है जहाँ पे आप एसओपी बना सकते हो। आइटम मास्टर जनरेशन, मतलब कोई चीज आप परचेज कर रहे हो तो उसका आइटम मास्टर डिफाइंड होता है सिस्टम में। तो आइटम मतलब मैं एक चीज चार लोगों से परचेज कर रही हूँ, ए बी सी डी सेम आइटम है, ए उसका नाम अलग देता है, बी उसका नाम अलग देता है, तो मेरे सॉफ्टवेयर में बहुत सारे आइटम मास्टर खुलते जाते हैं जबकि वो एक ही चीज है। सेम थिंग सेल की भी होती है। तो आइटम मास्टर जनरेशन कैसे होगा, कौन रिस्पॉन्सिबल है, उसकी एसओपी होगी। यूजर राइट मैन्युअल, कौन सा यूजर कौन सी एंट्री करेगा, किसके पास क्या व्यू राइट है, क्या एडिट राइट है, क्या डिलीट राइट है, कोई किसको पूरी डिटेल दिखेगी या किसको उसका लिमिटेड पार्टी दिखेगा। कोई डेटा एंट्री ऑपरेटर है तो वो परचेज और सेल की एंट्री करता है तो उसको सिर्फ वही परचेज सेल एंट्री का ही राइट्स देंगे हम। ठीक है। बार कोडिंग एंड कार्टून पैकिंग, तो बार कोडिंग मतलब अभी आगे भी मैंने बताया कि फिनिश प्रोडक्ट हम जब फैक्ट्री से बाहर निकालते हैं डिस्पैच के लिए तो बारकोड के हिसाब से करेंगे तो हमारा काम इजी हो जाएगा, स्टॉक इजीली मेंटेन हो जाएगा। सेल्स की कैसे बुकिंग करेंगे, पैकिंग एंड डिस्पैच कैसे करेंगे, पेमेंट की क्या एसओपी होगी, रिसिप्शन कलेक्शन की क्या होगी, एचआर की क्या एसओपी होगी, मतलब अटेंडेंस की क्या होगी, सैलरी कब होगी या लीव कैसे होगी, बोनस कैसे मिलेगा, प्रमोशन कैसे होगा। कॉस्टिंग, आप एक कॉस्टिंग की भी एसओपी डिफाइन कर दीजिए। वेस्टेज आइडेंटिफिकेशन एंड क्लियरेंस, मतलब आपका वेस्टेज कितना हुआ है, उसका क्लियरेंस कितने टाइम पे होगा, कैसे होगा। स्क्रैप आइडेंटिफिकेशन एंड इट्स क्लियरेंस। मंथली क्लोजिंग एक्टिविटी, मतलब मंथली आप सर्टन सेट ऑफ एक्टिविटी है, इतनी चीजें मैं हर मंथ कंप्लीट करता रहूंगा, तो वो एक एसओपी बना दीजिए। प्रोडक्शन प्लानिंग पे आप एक एसओपी बना सकते हैं। एमआईएस मैनेजमेंट इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम, आप एमआईएस के फॉर्म में एक पूरा रिपोर्ट दे सकते हैं। प्रोडक्शन वाइज या डिवीजन वाइज आपका जो प्रोडक्शन आ रहा है, वेस्टेज कैसे कितना आ रहा है, लेबर कितना लग रहा है, फाइनल पैकिंग कितना हो रहा है, डिस्पैच कितना हो रहा है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कितनी यूज हो रही है। फाइल्स एंड फोल्डर मैनेजमेंट, मतलब सॉफ्ट कॉपी और हार्ड कॉपी का मैनेजमेंट कैसे हो रहा है, मतलब ये भी एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, मतलब जो इग्नोर करते हैं। और फिर मतलब सारा हमारे पास डेटा है, कहाँ है, क्या है, पता नहीं होता। तो हाउ टू मैनेज योर फाइल एंड फोल्डर, हु आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर बैकअप, एसओपीज फॉर लॉकिंग ऑफ डेटा, मतलब आपका डेटा लॉक कब करना है, मंथ खत्म हो, आपका टीडीएस का पेमेंट हो गया, जीएसटी फाइल हो गया, डेटा लॉक हो जाना चाहिए, ठीक है, कि मतलब उसमें कोई चेंज या एडिट डिलीट करना है तो आपको कोई एक पर्सन की परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी, या कोई एक रीजन से ही आप उसमें चेंज कर सकते हो। तो ये सारे एरिया है जिसपे हम एसओपीज बना सकते हैं। अब जैसे टाइम मैं देख रही हूँ ऑलमोस्ट वी आर आउट ऑफ टाइम, तो मैं एक एसओपी जैसे गेट एंट्री, क्वालिटी चेक एंड जीआरएन, तो एक एसओपी हम ओपन करते हैं। एसओपी का फॉर्मेट क्या होगा, एक सिंपल फॉर्मेट है, मतलब ये मेरी 4 नंबर की, सपोज मेरी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है तो परचेज होगा, गेट एंट्री, जीआरएन, तो ये मेरी परचेज 4 नंबर की एसओपी है। मैंने एसओपी को एक नंबर दे दिया, टाइटल दे दिया, डेट दे दिया, रिव्यूड बाय, अप्रूव्ड बाय मैनेजमेंट ऑलवेज, मतलब उनके अप्रूवल के बिना कोई काम नहीं होगा। तो इसमें क्या प्रोसेस है, तो रिसीव्ड मटेरियल फ्रॉम सप्लायर, ठीक है, फर्स्ट ऑल मटेरियल शैल बी रिकॉर्डेड एट फैक्ट्री गेट एंड डिलीवरी चलन शुड बी साइंड एंड स्टैम्प्ड विद डिटेल्स लाइक कलर, क्वांटिटी, रिसीव्ड डेट, गेट नंबर, व्हीकल नंबर, टाइम एक्सेट्रा, ठीक है। हु आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल पर्सन, सिक्योरिटी गार्ड एट फैक्ट्री गेट और डेटा ऑपरेटर एट गेट। और डॉक्यूमेंट क्या जनरेट होगा, तो गेट रजिस्टर, वीकली रिकंसाइल किसके साथ करेंगे हम, पीओ के साथ, ये हमारा ऑडिट चेक हो गया, ठीक है। फिर मटेरियल शैल बी वेटेड एट द गेट इटसेल्फ, मतलब उसका वजन हो जाना चाहिए, क्वालिटी चेक हो जाना चाहिए, कुछ वेरिएशन है तो डेबिट नोट क्रिएट करनी, तो ये अगर क्वालिटी चेक आपको एप्लीकेबल है तो ये लिख लिया, उसका रिस्पॉन्सिबल पर्सन एबीसी लिख लेंगे। गेट एंट्री शैल बी रिकॉर्डेड इन सिस्टम एट द गेट, मतलब जो रजिस्टर में एंट्री हुई है वहां से सॉफ्टवेयर में भी उसकी एंट्री हो जानी चाहिए, गेट एंट्री रजिस्टर उसके लिए डॉक्यूमेंट होगा, ठीक है। क्वालिटी चेक के लिए कौन रिस्पॉन्सिबल है, क्यूसी क्वालिटी कंट्रोल हेड। जीआरएन एंट्री शैल बी मेड इन सॉफ्टवेयर अगेंस्ट परचेज ऑर्डर इश्यूड विथ रेफरेंस टू फैक्ट्री गेट एंट्री नंबर ऑफ द सेम डे मटेरियल रिसीव्ड, उसके जैसे ही गेट एंट्री हो गई तो उसके बेस पे जीआरएन हो जाएगा। जीआरएन में रिस्पॉन्सिबल पर्सन मिस्टर एक्स वाई जेड जो भी है लिख लेंगे। तो उसके लिए क्या डॉक्यूमेंट चाहिए, जीआरएन नोट चाहिए, मटेरियल रिसीव चलन चाहिए, डेली बेसिस में उसका रिकंसिलेशन हम जो वो रजिस्टर है उसके साथ करेंगे। तो एक मेरी एसओपी होगी गेट एंट्री की। मेरे पास बहुत सारी और भी एसओपीज आपको दिखाने के लिए, बट लैक ऑफ टाइम मैं नहीं कर रही हूँ। एंड थैंक यू फॉर लिसनिंग मी। और जैसे चितले सर ने बोला कि एसओपीज मतलब नॉट ओनली फॉर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज, सर्विस या ट्रेडिंग इंडस्ट्रीज में भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है। तो हम नेक्स्ट टाइम कभी टाइम परमिट करेगा तो उसके बारे में भी देखेंगे। चलिए, थैंक यू।
Thank you, Shweta ma'am. So once again, I would like to thank CA Preeti Savla madam and CA Supriya Kumar and the whole team of Women Member Empowerment Committee. We all must agree that our today's speaker has indeed justified the subject really beautifully, which was totally different. Thank you, Shweta madam, once again for enlightening us on such an untouched subject. And I would also like to thank our all the participants for patient hearing and active participating. And with this, I think we can conclude now, right? So we are concluding the session.
Thank you, Shweta ma'am.
Thank you all of you.